Today we're going to talk about parts of a circle. So let's get started. A circle is all points that are equidistant, which means equal distance, from a point called the center. Now let's talk about what that means. That means this distance is the same as this distance, is the same as that distance, is the same as that distance, and I could keep going on actually until infinity. Okay, so it's the same distance from there to the outside edge of the circle. All right, that's what equidistant means. A circle is named by its center, and a circle divides a coordinate plane into three parts. You could either be on the inside of the circle, or you can be on the outside of the circle, or you could be on the actual circle. So in the circle, out the circle, or on the circle, okay? So let's talk about lines and the segments and their names and all this vocab down here. So the first thing we have is a chord. That's how you say that, chord. It is a segment. So guys, segments have two endpoints. All right, and both of those endpoints are going to be on the circle. So we're going to give some examples of that. So you want to find a segment that is on the circle. Now I'm going to highlight things on here, but you don't have to. But let's see. A segment where the endpoints are on the circle. So it looks like DL, those endpoints are on the circle. I could just say DT right here, those endpoints are on the circle. And I could say TO right here, those endpoints are on the circle. Nothing else in this picture has both endpoints on the circle. Okay, so we're going to write those down. So DL was one, TO was one, and DT was one of them. Okay? So I'm going to erase those off of the screen. There we go. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, a radius. It is also a segment, so it has two endpoints. It's a segment that has one endpoint on the center and the other on the circle. So in the center, on the circle. Let's do that again. Center, on the circle. One more. Center, on the circle. So we're going to jot those down next. So DI is the center to the circle. IL is from the center to the circle. And EI is from the center to the circle. Now you'll notice that there's no exact way to write these. You should do alphabetical, but if you don't, it's okay too. All right? So I'm going to erase these guys. And now we're going to talk about diameter. So again, this is a segment that has both endpoints on the circle, but it has to go through the center. So the only thing in our picture that has both endpoints on the circle but goes through the center is going to be DL. So DL will be our only thing. So the next thing after that is secant. Now watch out, things are changing here. This time it's a line. So a line has two arrows at the end. And this line has to pass through the circle twice. So the only line, there's only two lines in the picture, right? The only one that goes through the circle twice is this one right here. But be careful, this is a line, so when we do our notation, we do have to make sure it has arrows at the end. So don't confuse secant with the DT that we did here for chord. Notice that those had endpoints, whereas the secant does not have endpoints on it. Okay, it's a line. So then the next one we're going to do is a tangent. Erase that. Tangent is also a line. Well, we only got two lines in the picture, so you could probably guess which one the tangent is. But it only touches the circle once. So notice that this just comes along and it takes a little kiss and it keeps going on. So this is going to be line, so make sure your notation is a line, LZ. Okay, and then wherever that tangent touches the circle, gives it a smooch, it's going to be the point of tangency. So our point of tangency in this picture is L. So now that you've watched this, and like I said, you know, if you need to rewatch it, rewind it, do whatever you need to do to get it done, okay? Now that you've seen this, I would like you to try this example and bring it to class, okay? So try that example, bring that into class, and let's see if you got all of these right. If you're getting confused here, I know that the dots aren't really prominent, so if you want to use those dots right there, I don't know if that'll help you a little bit or not. But those are the dots that go with the letters. Okay, so I'm going to go to the back side of this. Name the coordinates of the center of the circle. So the center of the circle, we go over 5 on x and we go up 5 on y. So our center here would be 5, 5. Now I tend to put a little c in front of it so I know when I'm looking back that it is the center. Number 2 says name the coordinates of the points of tangency to the x-axis and y-axis. So here's our center, right? I'm going to use a different color for x-axis. So it's where the circle kisses, that's what tangency means, kisses the x-axis, and it kisses it right there at 5, 0. So 5, 0 is our point of tangency to the x-axis. Now what about the y-axis? So where does the circle smooch the y-axis, which is right here? So this is going to be 0, 5. There's our 2 tangent points to the axes. And number 3 says, what's the length of the diameter? Well, first let's talk about the radius here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, if our radius is 5, our diameter must be 10. So diameter 10, and the radius is 5. Okay? We're going to talk about the equation of a circle. I'm sure you've all done the stuff we just did except for tangency with circles before, but you probably haven't seen the equation of a circle before. And here it is. And one thing I do want to point out to you is there is a minus sign here and here, and there's a square on your radius. And that's going to matter here in a second. So I'm actually going to skip number 1, but I am going to look at number 2. So since there's a minus sign there, actually I'll do number 1 and 2, and then maybe I'll have you do 3. So let's check out 1. Since there's a minus sign there, minus means the opposite of. Okay? Minus means you want the opposite of it. Okay, 2 negatives make a positive. So on number 1, when we're finding our center, which is HK, so it's going to be this and this, that'll give you your center. Right here you want the opposite of -4, which is +4. And right here you want the opposite of +7, which is -7. Okay? And the next thing you have to worry about is you have to find out what your radius is, but since it's squared, you're going to want to take the square root of it. So whatever the number is at the end, you take the square root of it to find out the radius. So our number at the end is a 9. So if I take the square root of 9, my radius is 3. Now I'm going to talk about number 2. On number 2, we're going to do the same thing. So what's the opposite of 3? And that's going to be -3. And what's really kind of weird and freaky, there's no number here with the y. But there's no number with the y, that's okay. You're just going to write 0. And then we have to worry about our radius. So square root of 16 is going to end up giving you 4. And what I would like you to do is go ahead and try number 3 on your own and bring that one into class with you. So go ahead and try 3 on your own. I think that you'll do really well on it. I think it's kind of easier than the other 2. So you definitely will probably, I guess that's kind of oxymoron to say definitely and probably, but I think you will do very well on it. How about that? All right, given the center and the radius, write the equation of the circle. So this is h and this is k, but remember we do the opposite of it, and then remember we square the radius, okay? So I'm going to actually do, the same thing down here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do number 5. So it's not going to be x minus 3, it's going to be x plus 3 squared because we do the opposite of it. Plus, it's not going to be y plus 1, it's going to be y minus 1 squared because we do the opposite of it. And then our 5 squared is going to be 25. That's the equation of the circle. Let's do 6. Well, my h is 0, so I just don't have an h, so we'll just put x squared. And the opposite of -6 is going to be +6. And then if I take my 9 and I square it, I get 81. Okay? And then let's look at 7. Looks like they want me to find the center. So I have to go back 5 on x, and I have to go up 5 on y. Okay, and now they want the radius. So the radius is 1, 2, 3, 4 units long. What's the equation? If we know the center is -5, 5, and we know the radius is 4, what's the equation going to be? So I want you guys to go ahead and do number 4. And I also want you to find the equation, now that you know how to do those, of the center of -5, 5 with a radius of 4. Okay? So bring those to class. If you get lost, remember you can always go back and rewatch this. See you then.